Reading from the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya Lila, Madhya 19. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. This text 153. As one waters the bhakti lata bij, the seed sprouts, and the creeper gradually grows to the point where it penetrates the walls of this universe and goes beyond the Vraja river, lying between the spiritual world and the material world. It attains Brahmaloka, the Brahman effulgence, and penetrating through that stratum, it reaches the spiritual sky and the spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan. Purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A creeper generally takes shelter of a big tree, but the Bhakti Lata, being the creeper of spiritual energy, cannot take shelter of any material planet, for there is no tree on any material planet that the Bhakti creeper can utilize for shelter. In other words, devotional service cannot be utilized for any material purpose. Devotional service is meant only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men with a poor fund of knowledge maintain that bhakti can be applied to material things also. In other words, they say that devotional service can be rendered to one's country or to the demigods, but this is not a fact. Devotional service is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is beyond this material range. There is a river or causal ocean between the spiritual and material natures, and this river is free from the influence of the three modes of material nature. Therefore it is called the Viraja. The prefix V means Vigata, completely eradicated, and Rajas means the influence of the material world. On this platform, a living entity is completely free from material entanglement. For the Jnanis who want to merge into the Brahman effulgence, there is Brahmaloka. The Bhakti Lata, however, has no shelter in the material world, nor has it shelter in Brahmalok, although Brahmalok is beyond the material world. The Bhakti Lata grows until it reaches the spiritual sky, where Goloka Vrindavan is situated. Text 154. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravana Kirtana, the Bhakti creeper grows more and more. In this way it attains the shelter of the desire tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan, in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita 537 it is said, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. He resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure, and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Ladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form, and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. In the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna has expanded himself by his spiritual potency. He has his eternal form of bliss and knowledge, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Everything in the Goloka Vrindavan planet is a spiritual expansion of Satchit Ananda. Everyone there is of the same potency, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. The relationship between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his servitor is Chinmaya Ras. Krishna and his entourage and paraphernalia are of the same Chinmaya potency. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is expanded throughout the spiritual world. And when that Chinmaya Ras potency expands through the material potency, it becomes all-pervading. The idea is that although the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists on his own planet, Goloka Vrindavan, he is also present everywhere. Andantarasta paramanu charantarastam. He is present within all the universes, although they are innumerable. And he is also present within the atom. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshi arjuna tishtati. He is also present within the heart of all living entities. This is his all-pervasive potency. Goloka Vrindavan is the highest planet in the spiritual world. In order to go to the spiritual world after penetrating the covering of the material universe, one must penetrate Brahmalok, the spiritual effulgence. Then one can come to the Goloka Vrindavan planet. There are also other planets in the spiritual world called Vaikuntha planets. And on these planets, Lord Narayan is worshipped with awe and veneration. On these planets, Shantaras is prevalent. And some of the devotees are also connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Dāsa, the mellow of servitorship. As far as the mellow of fraternity is concerned, in Vaikuntha, this ras is represented by Gaurava Sakya, friendship in awe and veneration. The other fraternity ras, exhibited as Vishramba, friendship in equality, is found in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. The other fraternity ras exhibited as Vishramba, friendship and equality, is found in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. Above that is service to the Lord in Vatsalya ras, parental love. And above all is the relationship with the Lord in the Madhurya ras, conjugal love. These 5 rasas are fully exhibited in the spiritual world in one's relationship with the Lord. Therefore, in the spiritual world, the Bhakti Kripa finds its resting place at the lotus feet of Krishna. Text 155. The Kripa greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the Kripa with the water of hearing and chanting. Purport. In Goloka Vrindavan, the devotees have very intimate relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotee engages in the Lord's service in great ecstatic love. Such love was exhibited personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to the people of the material world. The fruit of the devotional creeper is the pure desire to serve and please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishnendriya Pritiyachcha Dare Premanam. In the spiritual world, one has no desire other than to please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conditioned soul within the material world can neither understand nor appreciate how a pure devotee in the material world can render confidential service to the Lord out of feelings of ecstatic love and always engage in pleasing the Supreme Lord's senses. Although seen within this material world, the pure devotee always engages in the confidential service of the Lord. An ordinary neophyte devotee cannot realize this. Therefore it is said, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Vigya Na Bujhai. Caitanya-caritāmṛta Madhya 23:39. The activities of a pure Vaishnava cannot be understood even by a learned scholar in the material world. Every living entity is wandering within this universe in different species and on different planetary systems, according to his fruit of activities. Out of many millions of living entities, one may be fortunate enough to receive the seed of the Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service. By the grace of the spiritual master in Krishna, one nourishes the Bhakti Lata by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Shravana-kirtana, hearing and chanting. In this way, the seed of the Bhakti Lata sprouts and grows up and up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. The Bhakti Lata continues to grow until it reaches the topmost planetary system, Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna lives. There the creeper takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is its final destination. At that time the creeper begins to grow the fruits of ecstatic love of God. It is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the creeper to be very careful. It is said that the watering of the creeper must continue. Tan mali setche nitya shravanadi jala. It is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing and become a mature devotee. If one stops, one certainly falls down from devotional service. Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, you should not give up the watering process of Shravana-kirtana. If one gives up that process, it is due to an offense. This is described in the following verse, text 156. If the devotee commits an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Purport. One's devotional attitude increases in the association of a Vaishnava. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sanivas, janame janame hoy e abilas. By his personal example, Narottam Das Thakur stresses that a devotee must always remember to please his predecessor Acharya. The Goswamis are represented by one's spiritual master. One cannot be an Acharya, spiritual master, without following strictly in a disciplic succession of the Acharyas. One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous Acharyas. Echai Goshana Yar Mui Taradas. One should always think of oneself as a servant of the Acharyas. And thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas. Caitanya-caritāmṛta Madhya 1380. However, if one thinks that it has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas, and thus gives up all the regulative principles due to offending a Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. Offenses against the holy name are explained in Adi Lila, chapter 8, verse 24. Giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the bhakti lata and breaks it to pieces. In this way, the bhakti lata shrivels up. Such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called guru avagya. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offenses against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. As soon as one is deviated from the instruction of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the bhakti lata begins, and gradually all the leaves dry up. Text 157. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Purport. While the bhakti creeper is growing, the devotee must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. In this way, he will not give the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has thus said, Asat Sangha Tyag E Vaishnava Achar. Caitanya-caritāmṛta Madhya 2287. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the company of non-devotees. A so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotees, he must associate with non-devotees, asat sangha. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in, that is, by following the regulative principles and associating with pure devotees. Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna consciousness society, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master, and if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instructions concerning the regulative principles and chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. By one's mental concoctions, one falls down. By associating with the non-devotees, one breaks the regulative principles and is thereby lost. And the Upadeshamrita Srila Rupa Goswami said, Atihara prayasya cha prajalpa niyamagraha janasanga shalolyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinasyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to attain. 3. talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. Text 158. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. Text 159. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. Purport. There is a certain pattern of behavior prescribed for those actually trying to become perfect. In our Krishna conscious movement, we advise our students not to eat meat, not to gamble, not to engage in illicit sex, and not to indulge in intoxication. People who indulge in these activities can never become perfect. Therefore, these regulative principles are for those interested in becoming perfect and going back to Godhead. Kuti nati, or diplomatic behavior, cannot satisfy the Atma, the soul. It cannot even satisfy the body or the mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealings should always be straightforward and approved by Vedic authorities. If we treat people diplomatically or duplicitously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. Jiva hingsana refers to the killing of animals or to envy of other living entities. The killing of poor animals is undoubtedly due to envy of those animals. The human form is meant for the understanding of Krishna consciousness, atato brahma jigyasa, for inquiring about the Supreme Brahman. In the human form, everyone has a chance to understand the Supreme Brahman. The so-called leaders of human society do not know the real aim of human life and are therefore busy with economic development. This is misleading. Every state and every society is busy trying to improve the quality of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This human form of life is meant for more than these 4 animal principles: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are problems found in the animal kingdom, and the animals have solved these problems without difficulty. Why should human society be so busy trying to solve these problems? The difficulty is that people are not educated to understand this simple philosophy. They think that advancement of civilization means increasing sense gratification. There are many religious propagandists who do not know how the ultimate problems of life can be solved. And they also try to educate people in a form of sense gratification. This is also jiva hingsana. Real knowledge is not given, and religionists mislead the general populace. As far as material profits are concerned, one should know that whatever material profit one has must be abandoned at the time of death. Unfortunately, people do not know that there is life after death. Therefore, mundane people waste their time amassing material profit, which has to be left behind at the time of death. Such profit has no eternal benefit. Similarly, adoration by mundane people is valueless, because after death one has to accept another body. Material adoration and titles are decorations that cannot be carried over to the next body. In the next life, everything is forgotten. All these obstructions have been described in this verse as unwanted creepers. They simply present obstacles for the real creeper, the bhakti lata. One should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things. Sometimes these unwanted creepers look exactly like the bhakti creeper. They appear to be of the same size and the same species when they are packed together with the bhakti creeper. But in spite of this, the creepers are called upasaka. Upasaka. A pure devotee can distinguish between the bhakti creeper and a mundane creeper, and he is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate. Text 160. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. Purport. If one chants the Hare Krishna mantra while committing offenses, these unwanted creepers will grow. One should not take advantage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra for some material profit, as mentioned in verse 159. Nishid achara kutinati jiva hingsana labba puja pratishtati yattu upasaka gana. The unwanted creepers have been described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. One may also desire freedom from material bondage like the Mayavadis, or one may become attached to the yoga siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called siddhi lobhi, greedy for material perfection. One may also be victimized by diplomatic or crooked behavior, or one may associate with women for illicit sex. One may make a show of devotional service like the Prakrita Sahajyas, or one may try to support his philosophy by joining some caste or identifying himself with a certain dynasty, claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo-guru or so-called spiritual master. One may become attached to the four sinful activities, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong to a mundane caste or creed. One may think this is a Hindu Vaishnava and this is a European Vaishnava. European Vaishnavas are not allowed to enter the temples. In other words, one may consider Vaishnavas in terms of birth, thinking one is a Brahmin Vaishnava, another a Sudra Vaishnava, another a Malecha Vaishnava, and so on. One may also try to carry out a professional business by means of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. Also, one may become a cheap Vaishnava by trying to chant in a secluded place for material adoration. Or one may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees concerning one's philosophy or spiritual life. Or one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. All these are pitfalls of personal sense gratification. Just to cheat some innocent people, we make a show of advanced spiritual life and become known as a sadhu, mahatma, or religious person. All this means is that the so-called devotees become victimized by all these unwanted creepers, and that the real creeper, the bhakti lata, has been stunted. Text 161. Translation. As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the bhakti lata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. Purport. If one is misled by unwanted creepers and is victimized, he cannot make progress back to Godhead. Rather, he remains within the material world and engages in activities having nothing to do with pure devotional service. Such a person may be elevated to the higher planetary systems, but because he remains within the material world, he is subjected to the threefold miseries. Text 162. When the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. Text 163. There the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to a wish-fulfilling tree. With great bliss he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. Purport. The word tahan indicates that in the spiritual world, one can taste the juice of the fruit of devotional service and thus become blissful. Text 164. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life. And in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are very insignificant achievements. Purport. The highest achievement attained by the Gyanis or impersonalists is becoming one with the Supreme, generally known as moksha, liberation. The highest achievements of the yogis are the 8 material perfections, such as anima, laghima, and prakti. Yet these are nothing compared to the eternal bliss of the devotee who returns back to Godhead and tastes the fruit of devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. The material perfections, even up to the point of liberation, are very insignificant in comparison. Therefore, the pure devotee is never interested in such things. His only interest is in perfecting his devotional service to the Lord. The pleasure of the impersonalists, monist philosophers, is condemned in the following verse, which is also found in Srila Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava. So we'll take up tomorrow with text 165. Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vijayā Ekādatäī ki, hearing and chanting ki.